We are talking about metals. Who better than the Steel Secretary himself to throw color on that?
Yep, let's connect with the Steel Secretary of India. And good morning. Thank you for joining us. I just want to first understand in terms of the broad setup. And the broad setup right now is that the Chinese have decided to stimulate their economy. What implications do you think that will have for Indian steel companies? Because up until now, Indian steel companies have been indicating that demand has plateaued in last couple of quarters. Do you see that changing, sir?
Thank you and good morning to everyone. So yes, China has announced a stimulus package, and as we all know that they are basically trying to infuse liquidity into the steel infrastructure market, which will have impact on the steel sector and iron ore. And we have seen that the iron ore prices in China have gone up recently. So the basic implication which I can see right now is that the main complaint of domestic industry was that import of steel is increasing, and in fact, it has increased roughly 34% if we compare April to August numbers as compared to last year. So there was an increase in steel imports, and because of this stimulus package and increasing steel and iron ore prices in China, we would presume that the international market of steel will stabilize a little, and it will also have an impact on domestic steel prices, which were under tremendous pressure. And there was a decrease in steel prices for domestic producers. So I think in coming months, we will see improvement in steel prices, both internationally and for domestic producers.
Is there any thought, sir, to come up with any kind of an anti-dumping duty on HR steel?
We have heard, we have received representations from various steel producers on three aspects. One is increasing the basic custom duty. Second is imposing safeguard duty. And third is imposing anti-dumping duty. So on the first two, the matter is under examination in the government on the issue of basic custom duty increase and safeguard duty. Anti-dumping duty, I think two investigations have already started. One is on hot rolled flat products from Vietnam, because Vietnam, we have a ASEAN FTA. So there is industries alleging that products, especially hot rolled products, are being routed through Vietnam. So anti-dumping duty investigation has already started on hot rolled flat products from Vietnam. There is also anti-dumping duty investigation which has started on some Chinese products. So those investigations are under process, and then the decision will be taken as per process.
Do you expect the decision making to happen in this calendar year, sir?
That's a process, the anti-dumping duty as a dependent process. So I can't commit on the timeline, but as a ministry, we are hopeful that it will be as soon as possible.
Do you see, based on the data what you have and what the ministry tracks in terms of inventory, demand, supply, global glut, is there a merit in even considering an anti-dumping duty? Do you have enough data and evidence to say that cheap steel is getting dumped into India?
So basically, we have data. We keep monitoring monthly data. Our Joint Plants Committee monitors monthly data of inventory, production, consumption of steel. And what we are seeing right now is that there has been an increase in inventory levels, especially in ISPs. So roughly, for example, if we take SAIL, while earlier they were having inventory of roughly 21 days, that's their target. Now they have roughly 34, 35 days of inventory in there with them. So there has been increase in inventory And the prices of domestic steel manufacturers have also gone down, as reported both by the Joint Plants Committee as well as the manufacturers. So there has been impact on domestic steel prices. That's true.
Uh, Thank you for that, clarification, sir. And I think this is something which everybody really wants to, know your thoughts on. I would like to perhaps, extend one more point slightly forward in terms of the steel demand per se. The steel sector is expected to grow in line with India's GDP, which is 8% and 10 to 11% when it comes to the nominal GDP. However, last couple of quarters, the sector has not grown even in line with GDP. Is that cyclical or is there a structural issue there?
I would say this is cyclical, because if we see actually the past few years GDP growth rate vis-a-vis the steel demand has always been more than the GDP growth rate. If we see the data for past few years in India, and in fact, India is the only major economy which is seeing a robust growth in steel demand, and that's why Indian market is a target for many producers. Uh, and on the other hand, on the elasticity of GDP and steel demand, so we can say that roughly it has been 1.1, 1.2 till now. My perception is that as we are now arriving or reaching around 100 kg per capita steel demand in India, it's last year it was 97.5, so we are roughly at that number now. The elasticity may increase as we see from other countries' experience. And in fact, steel demand should go up in coming years. Means the elasticity should increase and the steel demand should grow more as compared to GDP growth. And that's why we are planning if you see the 2017 policy of the government of steel policy, we are expecting 300 million tons of steel producing capacity in the country. And in fact, till when we are doing a midterm review of steel policy, we expect that the demand or consumption will be more than what we had anticipated in 2017. So coming back to your question, yes, I think it's a cyclical nature of maybe more due to monsoon and other aspects, because the infrastructure push, especially from Government of India, also from state governments, if you see Sagar Mala project, if you see Bharat Mala project, other projects, the PM Awas Yojana from Government of India, similarly, state governments are coming out with their own infrastructure push. And if you refer to the this year's budget, there is a significant amount of roughly 11 lakh crores for infrastructure. So with all this, I expect that the steel demand will continue to grow and perhaps more than what it has been in recent years.
Secretary, I have just one more follow-up question before we, move to other topics on the on the point which you've just mentioned about investigations which have started for anti-dumping duty. I hope you'll appreciate that this is of immense market curiosity. But if the ministry decides or recommends that anti-dumping duty should be imposed, what happens to the FTA and other foreign treaties? Won't that be against what the FTA norms are? I mean, can it be actually implemented?
So as I said, that anti-dumping duty is a process. There is an independent process for determining whether there is dumping and then where there is injury or damages. So that process is underway. And as far as FTA is concerned, as you are aware, this is for all products, not only for steel. So when the process concludes, we will decide how to move forward. But as I said, the two processes are already underway for two products from China and Vietnam. So I can't comment on what will happen or what the decision will be right now.
Sure, I'm sure we'll have to tap into you another month from now as well and speak more. But Mr. Poundrik, the other thing that I wanted to talk about was NMDC Steel, because there are a lot of reports doing the rounds that they're very well in advanced stages for a strategic sale. They're awaiting now the final nod from the PMO. Anything that you can tell us in terms of what the bidders are, what's the valuation that's being quoted?
So as far as you know that the disinvestment is process is taken by the DIPA ministry, not by us. But as you yourself said, that the decision of government for disinvestment was taken, is still there. That process is being undertaken by DIPA, the Ministry for Disinvestment, and they will be. I don't think I will be able to comment on the valuation or other things right now because that is a process undertaken by DIPAM. But all I can say is that DIPAM is undertaking that process and they will move as per the decision of the government.
Sure. The other thing, that reports are suggesting that, debt-ridden RINL could be merged with SAIL. There are some reports which are also doing the rounds that the merger is not going to go through. What is your own sense, sir?
I can confirm that RINL is not in a good financial, as everybody is aware, they are not in a good financial situation. In fact, they have large debts on their balance sheets. And as far as Steel Ministry and government is concerned, we are trying to see that the plant doesn't close down because they have a large working capital deficit. So that we are trying to ensure that government supports them. And when I say government, it includes government, banks, financial institutions. So government supports them that the plant continues and the workers who are there means their livelihoods are protected. Apart from that, all means I don't think there is any right now. There's presently any other option being discussed for now, but presently we are discussing how to keep RINL alive and make a sustainable solution so that the financial situation improves.
So a merger with SAIL, you think, is going to be the most plausible solution?
Sorry, I will not be able to comment on different options as you are saying, but as I said, our aim is to keep RINL on a sustainable path and keep it alive.
So on a longer term basis, what role do you think the steel ministry will have in terms of the entire country's steel policy in making? Do you think they are likely to vacate the manufacturing space sooner than later? Will your ministry be taking larger roles in terms of policy making and development of the sector, or the government is committed to have a presence in the steel manufacturing sector in India?
So you mean in terms of the public sector undertakings?
That's right, sir. I mean, I'm just trying to understand, will government have an active interest in the steel manufacturing, or they really want to perhaps at some point in time vacate that space completely?
So as you know that as far as the strategic investment portfolios are concerned in the infrastructure sector, steel is not a strategic sector, but at the same time, we have right now SAIL, which has a roughly 20 million ton, 19-20 million tons of producing capacity. Then we have NSL and RINL. So there is significant public sector capacity in the market right now. And till it is there, as Steel Ministry, we would like that they work in the best possible manner. On your longer term aspect, I think as the government has put it in a non-strategic sector, so maybe at some time government will think about it. But right now, the policy or the approach of the ministry is to whatever PSUs are there and which are not under disinvestment to optimize their performance and improve their performance. So that's what it is, because uh, both public sector and private sector have a role, and both of them are doing their role. So for now, we will focus on improving the sector as a whole rather than working on private or PSU sectors.
Sure. So the other thing is that, our country continues to rely on coking coal imported from Australia, right, for steel manufacturing. Is India also looking to diversify coking coal sourcing? Because Coal India also was looking to strengthen its position in domestic coking coal industry. Where do you think this situation is headed?
Yeah, so you are absolutely right. Right now, we have a large dependence on Australian coking coal. And we are also importing from Russia to some extent. And what we are, so we have made a task force in the ministry to look at various options for diversification of coking coal, because we should not depend on one supply chain only. And in that direction, for example, a team visited Mongolia last month. In fact, they will be visiting again this month, October, this week only, in fact. So we are looking at that. We are also looking at some of the African coal as a possible option for import. So we are looking at different geographies, also increasing whatever we are doing from other countries. So we are looking at, along with the steel companies. So when I say steel companies, they include both private and public sector. So they are jointly visiting other countries to see whether other coals are feasible, economical, and can be used to diversify the coking coal basket. So that's a priority for the government.
Before we wrap, sir, I know we've extended our appointment with you and you've got a packed ahead. So I'll just wrap it up with one final question, that while the government right now is finding steel is not a strategic sector, so eventually a decision will be taken by the government. We don't know when, whether it is today, tomorrow, after 10 years, we don't know. But what the near-term attempt would be to keep the steel, the PSU steel companies efficient. So what are the plans to ensure that SAIL, which has a capacity of nearly 20 million ton, stands competitive in today's private sector environment?
Yeah, so basically, if you see the problems with SAIL, if you compare with other private players, is that number one, many of their plants are older and smaller, which basically leads to lower efficiencies in terms of cost. So what we are trying along with SAIL, also other companies, is that number one, they utilize or they go for latest technologies to reduce costs, improve their performance in terms of performance parameters. So that is one. Number two is use of artificial intelligence and other latest machine learning, other technologies, so that they can improve their coal blends, for example, and reduce their costs. And third is to reduce their overheads in terms of HR or other parameters wherever they can economize on them, because that is one area where they can improve. So that is the third thing. And the final thing, I think, is to go for bigger and newer blast furnaces and other plants, other units, so that they can also achieve the efficiencies what the private sector is doing. So these are some of the parameters on which SAIL is working, and we are focusing as a ministry with them, so that they improve and they get better efficiencies and better economics.
Mr. Poundrik, such a pleasure, sir, having you today on ET Now. Thank you so much for taking the time out.
Thank you. Thank you for calling me. Thanks.
There comes a time when your heart calls for you to arise. Plant your feet solid into the ground. Decide your own limits. And then break right through them. Become something more. It's my time to rise.